Okay, the problem if we try to run it again, and now I will actually show you that when you got a view, you don't need to first start the browser and then get an error. You could actually just point out the view and then see view it in browser, then it will start up directly. Then you don't need to type it in and get an error in the first place. And the problem, if I try to do it again, you'll see it, but this is a problem because you can see there's a text here. So if I try to make an add, it was an annoying problem. Then it's trying to pass it into this one. And you can see the last one is an integer. So there will be no mask for having a text input here. And I didn't evaluate it, the field, so I just thought it was a good idea putting in something now, and I didn't thought about that if I don't type anything in, I will have a problem. So it probably would be better just putting in a number in the first place, then I wouldn't run into this problem. But if I try to do it again, then just changing this one and then trying to say add, you can say that it's actually running. And it's a little bit quick, but you can see in that it's actually refreshing the site, so it has make a post and then it returns the view back. So we actually now have a running application. So what we can do now is changing a little bit, because we might want now to have some information to this form when we are sending it, because we are sending it back. So when we make a post, then we want it to be an update, and when we are sending it back, we want new elements, of course. So in this case, we need to have some data changed. And so the first thing is now we need for the method, the action that we are making the calculation here, of course, we need to make the calculation, and in the first place we just make an add. I put this in, and we'll come to that a little bit later, but in the first place I could make a value here. I already got one, so I could actually use the result, as I can make a new one, call it res equal num1 plus num2. So now I got a result. So in the first place, I want this one to be updated in the form. So when I return the view, it's generate the form, but it's still constant value, so it's a little not functional program. So I need to pass it. And in the first place, I can do it in different ways. Yes? The problem was that when I had the information in the box, the text box, I put in a value that was not a number. So it's a text, but the controller I have used here actually say that it should be an integer, so we can't pass it to an integer. And the problem in the first place is that I don't get that as an error. I get an error that I don't have a function, an action that match the parameters, because I've got one with a string and 3 integer, but I don't have one with a string as a result. So I could make a new one where I have a result as a string, and then it will probably match the information for that. So, but now I got the calculation, so I want to put it in the view. And that's a different way of doing that. I will use the simple one in the first place. We got some memory key value pair we can use for that. We got something called a view back, and we got something called view data. View back is actually a simple way of making view data, but you use a dot instead of an indexer, and it's dynamically, so sometimes you won't see that you have an error, but you won't do that when you are using data with a key value pair as well. So I will use this one because this could be used also later, and the viewback could only be used sometimes. So I have this key value pair. So I've got and I could call it result. That would be probably the good name for it, because then it will be the same name all over and over. So I could put in the res here. So in this case, I actually send the result back also. That is uninteresting, you can say, because it's a text box. It might be a label instead, because I shouldn't change it. But anyway, now we can see it's coming back, and we can see what it is, and we can see whether we change it. So now I got a key value pair, and this one I could actually use in my view. So this is, you can say it's not a global variable, but it's global inside the thread running this one, so I can use it everywhere, and I can use it here as well. So I need to use it, and instead of the value here, so I put in this one. So, and in this case, actually, I got a problem. You can see, because I don't like the quotes, but I could change the quotes for this one to single quotes, as and that's really good. Sometimes you when you have text and you want to make quotes, and like this one, you can use single quote and double quote in the result. If I didn't use it this way, I could actually use it another way, because I could have written like this: view data, view back, and then dot result equal res, like this one. Just comment it out, and then here I could write like this one. I just change it and change it back. So, so I could write view back is it big? Yes, and then dot result. But you have the problem that you might not see the name, because it's dynamic. So the other one was probably better in the first place, but just if you see view back, it's the same, because sometimes you will see that in the top of like this, you will see often they are using a view back, and that's pretty the same, sending information to the next page level. So now we actually have changed the input. So let's try to run it again and see if it's working. So, and we might need something more. Actually, it will work, but we might need something more, because in this case we have the empty one with the default value. We also might have this one put in with the value we wanted to use in the beginning. So let's just set it to 0. So we actually have something in the something that actually can be passed in this message. So let's try to run it again. And so you can see we try to put something here, 20 and 10, and saying add, and it's giving this one, and you can see that this is a little bit interesting, because it also changed this value. So this will be standard sent back. We don't change it. So in this case, of course, when we send the form, there will be the value from the form, and will be set back to the default value. So it's only this one that we actually change in the form. Yes? Yes?
Why do you send result to the method as a parameter?
Just to see that it was an option. So I could actually remove it. I could remove it, yes. Yeah, but normally when you have an input field, you also want to have it back. And in this case, if I change it to something else, the idea is now I can actually set up the debug, and you can see that this is the information passed back. So yeah. So just to show. So let's do a little bit more, because we can actually change this, not only returning the information for the result, but also for num1 and num2. We can store them in 3 different elements. So we got num1 and num2, and then of course num1, num2, and we go back here and we change this one. So we steal a little bit. So the value should be like this one, and then this one, and then num2 and num1. Was our with capital or small? It was small. It should be small. So this should be okay. And of course, in this case, it would probably be a good idea also to put information here, in here as well, with default values. That could be 0 and 0. So we try it again. So we can try 5 and 3 and say add, and it's giving 8. So now we actually have a functional working solution. So, but if we are pressing this one, it should give 2, but of course it's every time the same. So someone asked me why I did pass the value of the submit, this element, and if you go to the input type, you see that we actually got a name submit. We actually got 2 of them, but we can only press one of them. So one of them will actually be sent back with a key value pair, and the value is the one that will be sent back with the element submit. So in this case, I could actually pass the name of the bottom, and the name of the bottom here is interesting because that might be the way I want to calculate the result. So in this case, of course, I could change this one. So I could change this a little bit. So I could make a switch. That might be an idea here. Switch on submit, the value of the submit, and case add should be the add button. Then I could say res equal none, and then a break like this one, and then I could do the same for the subtract button, And now it's also just showing you that we could actually also have an error message back if we have not pressed any of them. Then we could have a default. We couldn't have a default method. I don't think in a calculator that you have a default. If you have a button that you don't support, then what should you do? It might be a best just to give you an error message. So we need the break probably. No, actually I think that we are making a return, so we don't make a break. I just make a return. There's different way of doing that stuff, but I will make a new, the general one, HTTP status, and then this one, this object I will send back, and it has some parameters. I put them on next line so you can see them. The first one system, I put the full name so you can see where it comes from. Net dot. You could put up a using set, using in the beginning of course. It might even be there already. System.net. Is it? It is system.net. No, it's not. So it's from system.net. HTTP. Status code. And then we have different status code. So this is the number we actually passing. So I could say not implemented. Not implemented, that might be a good idea. And then maybe also have the text. And then plus submit. Then I have shown you how to make an error, and of course this will be a dramatic error because you will make an abort of the application, of course. So now we have a full application running where we actually are using simple forms. We are actually not using the real model. That would be the next step. Yes. Need a wider screen. I hope this one gives you an idea what's going on, because the next step will be a little bit more complex. So the next step we will try to do is actually make a model. Instead of we can do that for the calculator and see what's the change, and then we will use Razor a little bit more to help us with generate this one. So this will be the next step. I don't think we need to run it, so I'll just